The origin of the Bali Strait. Once upon a time, Bali Island and Java Island were one unit, and there was no sea separating them. The inhabitants of Bali and Java Island, according to stories and history, also came from one descendant. There are word-of-mouth legends that tell what happened to separate the two islands. Here is the story. At that time in the eastern part of Java, there lived a powerful hermit named Begawan Siddhi Mantra. He was famous and respected because he was not only powerful, but he was also virtuous and had high religious knowledge. Begawan Siddhi Mantra only had one son named Manik Ankaran. The Begawan loved his son very much, especially because Manik Ankaran had never felt his mother's love since he was born. Unfortunately, because he was so dear to him, Manik Ankaran grew up to be a spoiled child who loved to indulge in extravagance. His daily favorite was to spend his father's money on gambling and cockfighting. Siddhi Mantra always advised his son to stop his bad habits. But Manik Ankaran never heeded his father's words. Over time, their wealth ran out. Manik Ankaran began to go into debt to place bets. With each passing day, Manik Ankaran's debts piled up. Because he was in debt and didn't know where else to look for money, he ventured to come to his father. "Father, help me. My debts are piling up and I don't know how to repay them. The people from the place where I owe money are looking for me to collect the debt," he cried. Manik Ankaran wailed in front of his father. Seeing his only son in distress and hearing his complaints, the Begawan took pity on him. "All right, son. I will find a way to pay off your debts. Do not be sad. But promise me you will never play gambling again." Manik Ankaran's eyes twinkled with pleasure. He replied excitedly, Sure, father. I have learned my lesson and will never gamble again." With his magic, Begawan Siddhi Mantra learned that at the easternmost tip of Java, there was a mountain that held an abundance of treasure. The mountain full of treasures was called Mount Agung. It is said that the mountain is guarded by a large dragon snake called Naga Basuki. This dragon was the guardian of Mount Agung's treasure. Without wasting any time, Siddhi Mantra went to the top of Mount Agung to ask Naga Basuki for help. To get the dragon to come out of his hiding place, the Begawan sounded bell. Hearing the sound of the Begawan's bell, Naga Basuki came out of his hiding cave. "Dear hermit, what is your purpose in coming here?" asked Naga Basuki. "Oh, mighty Basuki, help me out of my distress. The only child I love is in debt. Help me to pay off the debt." "Very well, Begawan. Since you are kind-hearted and virtuous, I will help you. Unfortunately, your son is not like you. Advise him to stop his despicable craze," said the dragon. The dragon shook his body and his scales fell. The scales turned into gold and diamonds. "Bring the gold and diamonds and pay your son's debts," said Naga Basuki. "Thank you, kind Naga. I will remember your kindness," replied the Begawan. After picking up the gold and diamonds given by Naga Basuki, Begawan Siddhi Mantra went home and advised his son to stop gambling. Of course, Manik Ankaran was overjoyed to see his father return home with an abundance of wealth. He immediately paid his debts, but just as quickly he returned to his bad habits. Manik Ankaran's debts piled up again. After getting back into debt, he asked his father for help. Begawan Siddhi Mantra was upset with his son's behavior, but he could not bear to see his son in distress. Embarrassed, the Begawan once again went to Mount Agung to ask for help from Naga Basuki. As before, Begawan Siddhi Mantra rang his bell to summon the Naga. Naga Basuki came out of hiding. "Oh, Begawan, What is your need this time? Asked the Naga. Holding back his shame, Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra expressed his difficulty once again. O mighty Basuki, I ask for your help once again. My son is back in debt. I have advised him to stop his gambling habit, but he has ignored my advice. The Naga was angry at the news, but seeing the noble character of the Bhagwan, he was willing to help him once again. It turns out that your son is an ungrateful child. I will help you just this once. This is the last time I will help you. Then, Naga Basuki dropped his scales, which immediately turned into gold and jewels. After collecting the gold and jewels, Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra begged off and promised not to trouble the dragon again. Manik Ankaran was astonished, but delighted to see the results brought by his father. His eyes sparkled with greed at how easily his father had obtained abundant wealth. Father, tell me how to get the gold and jewels, Manik Ankaran pleaded. Never mind, Manik. Stop your bad habit, because after this your father cannot help you anymore, said Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra. Unfortunately, Manik Ankaran did not heed his father's advice at all. He was once again in debt as he continued his penchant for squandering money. This time, to pay off his debts, Manik Ankaran decided to search for the gold jewel himself. He was determined to find the source of the treasure and set off for Mount Agung. From the various information he obtained, Manik Ankaran knew that his father had asked Naga Basuki for help using his magic bell. So when he arrived at Mount Agung, Manik Ankaran sounded his father's bell. Naga Basuki came out of hiding, but he was angry to find Manik Ankaran. Hey, you ungrateful young man, why did you steal your father's bell and call me? Manik Ankaran trembled at the dragon's anger, but he had the courage to plead, Naga Basuki, help me out of my predicament. If I cannot pay off my debts, I will be killed. Have mercy on me. Naga Basuki felt compassion for Manik Ankaran's sadness. All right, I'll help you just this once. Stop your bad habit because it will make your father sad. Then, Naga Basuki turned around to retrieve his treasure from the ground. As Naga Basuki turned around and was about to go to the bottom of the earth, Manik Ankaran saw the dragon's glittering tail. Oh, it turns out that the dragon's tail, glittering made of large and priceless diamonds. Manik Ankaran was blinded by greed and his evil intentions arose. He drew his dagger and cut off the dragon's tail. Naga Basuki writhed in pain and abandoned his plan. He came out of the ground again. He saw that his tail was severed and bleeding. Furious, Naga Basuki pursued him, but all he found were the footprints of Manik Ankaran. Enraged, Naga Basuki chanted a spell and sprayed fire on Manik Ankaran's footprints. Because of his magic, the fire not only burned Manik Ankaran's footprints, but also his body. Manik Ankaran was reduced to ashes. Meanwhile, Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra was anxious because his son had left home. Once he realized his bell was missing, Siddhi Mantra realized that his son had gone to Mount Agung in search of treasure. Immediately, the Bhagwan went to Mount Agung and met Naga Basuki. Siddhi Mantra was shocked to find Naga Basuki moaning in pain because his tail was cut off. The Bhagwan was shocked and asked Naga Basuki, "Oh Naga, what has happened? Have you seen my son, Manik Ankaran? Behold, your son has cut off my tail out of greed for the diamonds that adorn it. I have burned your son to death because he is an ungrateful child," replied Naga Basuki angrily. The Bhagwan sadly pleaded with the Naga, "Forgive my son, Naga Basuki. Bring him back to life, for he is my only son." "Very well, my lord. I will bring your son back to life on one condition. Make my tail whole again." That was Naga Basuki's request. Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra agreed and released his magic. Finally, Naga Basuki's tail was back in one piece as before. Naga Basuki fulfilled his promise and brought Manik Ankaran back to life. Manik Ankaran, who had come back to life, was very sorry for having troubled his father. Out of anger, Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra punished Manik Ankaran and did not allow him to return home. Manik Ankaran was asked to stay around Mount Agung to reflect on his mistakes. To prevent Manik Ankaran from making any more mistakes, Bhagwan Siddhi Mantra swung his staff at the ground near Manik Ankaran's feet. Instantly, the ground split, separating Manik Ankaran from his home. The ground split wider and wider until it was inundated by seawater. From then on, Mount Agung, where Manik Ankaran was staying, was separated from Java. The split land was filled with seawater and formed a strait separating the two islands. The strait is now known as the Bali Strait.
Based on the story about the origin of Bali Strait, there are two things that we can learn. 1. Let us not waste money and indulge in extravagance because there are still many other people who live in need. 2. Greed will only harm yourself and others. A greedy person will never be satisfied with whatever he has. Tell me your comment about this story in the comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.